Welcome to the Conscious Creative Podcast, your weekly dose of soul-to-soul conversation that will have you saying peace out to your 9 to 5 to explore in your sacred calling. The topics center around conscious business and interviews with the folks who started them. We'll be exploring the art of being human and what it takes to live your life fully expressed and financially free. I'm Christina Gomes, and I went from high-paying job as a psychotherapist to leaving it all behind for my desire to travel the world playing my original music, to becoming the CEO and soulpreneur founder of freeyourcreativity.org, where I help visionary leaders create the businesses of their wildest dreams. If you have a sacred calling, stick around. My prayer is that you become the permission slip for the collective as you hear the soul-inspiring stories that call you forth into creative action. Let's get to the soul. Hello. I am here to download you with some cool information around storytelling, and I'm going to answer some questions from current participants. So we begin 30 days of magnetic storytelling. It's a challenge, and we begin tomorrow with 30 days of prompts. I'm going to be interviewing expert storytellers, and I have put together a few trainings that are normally reserved for my students in the Conscious Creative Business School or my private mentorship clients. I'm really excited to answer these cues live for you today. First, I pulled a card. So there are so many ways to tell stories, and I'm actually a creator of my very own Oracle deck that will be hitting the internet streets this year. But I pulled the Village card, and these cards tell such a beautiful story. These are archetype cards, and I pulled the archetype of the Village, and I just thought this was really cool. Without looking at the book, I wanted to start to channel some ideas and concepts and some creative musings around the village. Now, I live in a little village in Central America. I live on a dirt road, and it truly is a village. I live with Mayan women in a Mayan community, Mayan men and women in a community, and it is their village and it's their land that I live on. And then we have a little expat community full of deep and spirited healers, guides, people who come for healing, and it's a really potent place for your personal transformation. So pulling the Village card was really cool for the start of this magnetic messaging storytelling journey, because in the village, you also get whispers. You know, nobody's story goes unheard. In a small town or a village, stories really, really matter. And living in this village now is like living in a time capsule. The women still wear their Mayan garb, their Mayan uniform, and they're so beautiful, full of color. And stories of different villages are prominent. You'll know the stories of certain families. You'll know the story of the one tree. We were talking about in one of our community groups about this tree that's right outside the church in the middle of the village. And my friend was like, yeah, I know my homie's grandfather planted that tree. And he started to tell the story of his homie's grandfather who planted that tree from a seed from his wedding. Then he had the wedding at the church. So stories really matter, and stories connect us across the globe, so across cultures and cross-culturally and intergenerationally. So even though my friend isn't from here, he became homies with someone who is from here, and that story lives within him, and he gets to tell it, and these stories get to be passed on. So stories just become more prominent in a little village. And actually in this little village, we have a lake and we have volcanoes. And so this card was a really cool way to kickstart this challenge, because another thing that I intend on creating in this challenge is a sense of community. And a sense of community is much more prominent in a village. And it takes a village. When we are raising ourselves up, when we are elevating our personal brands or our work, and we want our body of work to be seen, to be known, to be felt, it takes a village. And so when you share your story, you also need the ears of listeners, which is your own village in a sense. So your audience, you are actually creating a village. You're creating a community. It's not that you are necessarily standing on stage unless that feels more comfortable to you. Many of the people I work with feel like their body of work and their work is a co-creative process, and they're actually standing shoulder to shoulder with their clients or students. And so we're all raising each other up. And I learned so much from my clients, and the people who are joining this challenge asked some really potent questions. And so I want to answer those questions live for you so you can feel a part of this community and a part of this challenge. And if something sparks in you where you want support telling your story so that you can have your story be heard, you need the listener. The listener and the storyteller are like this one in breath and out breath. And if you want help standing on a stage or sitting around a fire or getting online and speaking words, telling stories and telling your story, this challenge is here to support you, and it's completely free. So for 30 days, it's free. We may package it up to be a paid program, but for now, my intention is to help you to tell better stories and have that ripple effect of your body of work being felt. And your stories are a part of your body of work. Your stories and telling them create your legacy. It creates what you leave behind, just like the story of my friend's friend, whose grandfather planted the tree that's in the center of this village after his wedding. So a tree planted with love gets to create shade, gets to create a community place, gets to create a legacy, a monument, a visual representation of this one family's love. And without the storyteller, I would not have been affected by this story. And we are all affected by each other's stories. And we are all lifted up when you tell your story. Okay. So this is my intention for you to tell better stories. Yes. So you can attract clients, you can fill up your offers, you can grow your audience full of resonant and ready to invest humans. But ultimately, the bigger reason is that we get to live on through story. Okay, we get to create our legacy through the stories that touch one another. So I am so excited to answer some questions today around stories. So why listen to me though? First of all, why listen to my answers around these questions? And if you want to ask your own questions, you can join with the link on Facebook, is in the comments, and it's in my bio on Instagram. Why join this event? If you are a coach, a mentor, a healer, a guide, telling stories is incredibly powerful also to fill up your offers. And ultimately, I'm excited for you to fill up your offers in ways that feel good, in ways that make you want to come online and talk about things. When you've learned sales in the past, or maybe you've learned from someone who you just didn't resonate with, but you knew you needed to learn some marketing, you know you need to sell, you need to learn business skills to fill up your offers, but you weren't really resonating with that person on a deeper level. You weren't resonating with their stories or their mission or their values, but maybe you picked up a course, because we all do that. We're all like, okay, let me get in a course, and maybe we don't get in a course that really helps us. And I am here to really help the deep and spirited, soul-led leaders, the ones that are here to make a true and lasting change with their offers. And so the way that you sell is going to be different than the advertisement of old. And so why listen to me on telling stories is, yes, so that your business can grow, but that you can feel like you want to grow your business, like you're doing good in the world just from your marketing efforts, right? And your marketing efforts go further and farther because you're using the power of story to promote your offers, to attract clients, to fill up your programs, courses, retreats, events, whatever it is that you're putting out. We don't want these things that you're putting out to go un just to hear crickets. When you're putting something out, we want people to be in their desire to jump in. Crickets, no fun. Crickets are for the jungle. You want the crickets? Go to the jungle. We hear crickets every night where I live as well. Very beautiful. But when it comes to you filling up your offers, crickets is not the vibe. So today we want to talk about what is the vibe. And so I'm answering some storytelling questions because when you go to tell your story, I'm sure that you've come to some challenges. Now, I have been filling up offers for over 12 years now. I am an entrepreneur and I started traveling the world as a singer-songwriter. So as a storyteller, really, as a poet, as a bard, and singing songs in dingy bars wasn't really making enough money to continue to travel and to continue to live in these far away worlds. So about, over 10 years ago now, I also got a yoga teacher training and I started to teach yoga around the world as well. And what I noticed were that my courses and classes were filled to the brim with people. And some people that graduated with me were having trouble filling up their yoga classes. And here I was just marching into Thailand being like, I'm a yoga teacher. I want to teach you yoga. I want to teach classes. And will you come? And so when I started to hear stories of my colleagues or folks who are also in the town wanting to fill up their offers, getting really discouraged because their offers weren't filling up, I wanted to know the difference because, I'm not a unicorn. Like, people don't hire me because I'm cute, and there's much more to it than just being a charismatic person. And you actually increase in your charisma and you become a charismatic person through story. So I was intentionally telling stories on my flyers, in a blog, and I was building relationships and connections with people through story. I would go to a cafe, I would sing, and all of my songs were based in stories. That's how my songs came through. Each song was a story. And so storytelling was natural to me. And when I wanted to fill up higher end offers, I filled them up through the power of story. I told stories of my clients. I told stories of my own challenges. And I really connected with people. People felt connected with me because I was telling vulnerable stories. Stories connect you with people scientifically because stories release dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and all sorts of endorphins. These are human. These make you feel more human. They make you feel. When you tell a story, basically you evoke emotions, and emotions are key to selling. People buy much more often from an emotional place than they do a logical place. Yes, at a certain price point, logic will kick in, and we want to infuse logic into our marketing as well, especially if you're wise and intelligent and you're solving a problem. Most businesses are solving a problem. Most successful businesses solve a problem that people need solved. But ultimately, to invite people to buy, we get to evoke emotions. So that brings me to the questions today. So I'm answering some questions that were asked in the Magnetic Messaging Mastery course. Actually, scratch that, reverse it. Let me back up a little bit. I have a school, and in the school, you get all of my courses. And so I am treating this 30-day live magnetic storytelling challenge like you've joined the school, like you've invested in yourself. So I am showing up for the participants of this challenge like they've invested to be inside of my school. And in this school, it is for soulpreneurs. I've designed the school and all of the courses that come with the school for soulpreneurs who want to fill up their offers with joy to work with clients, students, and customers. Now, my cat is squeaking. Maybe I show her. She's kind of napping, but I do want to give her a little. I'll tell her story someday, but oh, she is purring right now. Let's just purr with the baby. Okay, so back to the questions. So in the storytelling challenge, I'm inviting the participants to ask questions. In my school, weekly, I am answering your personal questions in the school. Okay, so being in this magnetic messaging mastery challenge, storytelling challenge, I am answering your personal questions for an entire month. Okay. So I am treating you like you joined the school. It's like being in the Conscious Creative Business School for free for an entire month. So I'm really excited to be delivering this level of service to anyone who's signed up for the challenge. So if that sounds fun to also get your personal questions answered for an entire month and have a community and practice telling stories, as well as getting 30 days of creative prompts and exclusive access to storytelling interviews, or interviews with storytellers rather, and some of my high-end trainings that come inside the school. I'm breaking off a few of those trainings specifically around storytelling for you. This is the first time I've ever done this, and I'm really excited for you to get so much incredible value for an entire month for free. Imagine what you could create in a month of getting personalized support. I often feel like that is what's missing from these courses that you've gone through is one, maybe the leader or the teacher wasn't really your vibe or your style, or they're still teaching old school marketing hacks. And that's not really what you need to attract your clients and to fill up your offers, because your offers are deep and meaningful and they're designed for a certain kind of person. And, you know, the techniques that bro marketers are using are probably not going to work for you. So I'm excited to be that connection point for you. And some of the courses that you may have downloaded or the freebies that you've taken, what they lack is personal support. What they lack is you being able to ask questions and have a safe space where no question goes unanswered and no question is a stupid question. And we all have questions, to the point where I can predict my clients' questions at the phase that they are at. And so I did predict these questions, and I'm so excited to answer them. And the people are going to be anonymous, but the questions I'm sure you can relate to. So let me pull up these questions and let me answer the first one. And then for the humans that ask these questions, they're going to get a little timestamp and get their personal question answered, which is really cool. And that's how we do it in the school as well. Every week you have a space to ask your question. And every Tuesday, I will answer your question personally, either through text, a personal text message, or live. Okay. So let's see. So the first question is around having a challenge about telling stories that involve others. So how do you tell a story that involves others without putting their story out there if they don't want it? This is a great question because I work with entrepreneurs and soulpreneurs. I call you soulpreneurs because you're deep, soulful, and your programs and offerings are healing for you to put out as well. So this is your soul's evolutionary journey to be a soul-led leader, to be a teacher, and you putting out your offers is a part of your soul's trajectory, and that ish ain't always easy. So I'm here to support soulpreneurs. And I support people often with this, putting out their client stories. So there are two ways to put out a client story. One is to ask for a testimonial, ask for consent to use their story in a case study or a testimonial. And you can even have a little consent form that they sign, or you can straight up ask them. If you're like a private mentor or you have a private program, you can ask in one of your sessions. But if you have a big group program like mine, like the Conscious Creative Business School, which has many lessons, has many different people working at many different stages, it's not as personalized of a mentorship as my private mentorship. And so I may send a form, ask their consent to share their story. And if they say no, then that's fine. Another way is to share their story anonymously. So much like I'm answering these questions, bringing it to the whole collective and my whole audience, but keeping the question asker private, but I will let them know that I answered the question in this format and they can go through the question and get their question answered without needing to tell their story, without their story being revealed. So if it's in that context where you want to tell a client story, this is very, very powerful. So you're not just going to learn in this magnetic storytelling challenge how to tell your own story. You're going to learn how to tell a captivating story. So if you want to tell the story of your clients so that more people can feel the power of your work, you're going to know how to best do that. And the challenge of not wanting to reveal somebody's story could be that you ask, and you could even do an interview where they get to tell their story, because the fear is that they won't want their story shared. But I find that with a little coaching, most people want to share their story. There's just something that they're fearing. So it's an opportunity for you to coach them. It's an opportunity for you to guide them. It's an opportunity for you to go deeper with them on what is fearing them and what is their, what do they feel like will happen on the other side of sharing that story. So, but the question that my participant asked was if they don't want. So it sounds like that they don't want. But I have another way around this, is stories are really actually, Joseph Campbell says that there's really only one story. If you track the patterns in stories, we're all telling the same story. So you can glean the lesson, you can generalize the story, and you can change details. Now, I'm writing a book. It's creative nonfiction, so these stories are true, but we must change the details to protect the identity of the people involved, especially if they don't want. So I've gone to many creative writing retreats. I've been to 3, actually. A specific creative writing retreat with my friend Luke, who's also now my editor for my upcoming book. And I learned a lot about this, telling the stories of the people that don't want their stories told. Because sometimes it's not their story you're telling, it's yours. And so, of course, they may not want this story told if they were not a good, if they're not painted in a good light. However, your story will involve challenges. Your story will involve antagonists. Your story will involve protagonists. Your story will involve challenges. That's what makes a good story, that there's a challenge and a resolution. And so if somebody doesn't want you to tell their story, it's actually not their story. And Anne Lamott said, she is a teacher of writing. She wrote the book Bird by Bird. There's a quote that I like to share in these instances of, if they wanted to be written better about, they should have behaved better. So I want to say that again. If they wanted to be written better about, they should have behaved better. And so you get to change people's names, but if it's your story that you're telling and that not theirs, or they're a part of it, you also get to tell this story. You just need to change names, details, any identifying factors. So that's a little bit different than telling the stories of your clients, because the coach-client relationship and the teacher-student relationship is sacred. We can't thank a teacher in a million lifetimes. It's a sacred connection. And oftentimes our biggest teachers were not even people we asked to be taught by. However, We can't thank our teachers in a million lifetimes. And so we want to tell the story because we want to tell the story. But our clients and our students, this is a really, it's a sacred container. And so we want to ask permission, get consent. And if it's an incredible story that you want to tell, but they don't want it told, maybe they would be okay with you telling it without their name or change of details. And so in a book, you don't actually have to ask. In a book, I am telling stories of people that if they are connected to me and I want to keep their relationship, I've asked if I can tell this particular story. I've sent them the chapter of my book, and it's usually a thumbs up. But if it's someone that behaved poorly and they're a pivotal aspect and character in the story, then I'm just changing names and identities, and they wouldn't be crazy enough to come forward and be like, I think this is about me, if they're written in such a bad light. So you can kind of just leave it, and they'll know it's about them if they ever read the book. But we cannot fear telling our stories and let the ghosts of our past dictate our creative expression anymore. So this challenge and this question of how can I best share my experiences without putting their stories out there if they don't want it, it sort of depends on whether we're talking about people that don't want to be talked about because they behaved poorly in your life, or we're talking about your clients. So clients, very simply, you get to ask, you get to talk about it. And if they still don't want, you can glean the lessons and talk about this story in a generalized way. There's really only one story. And so you can say, like, for example, say that you do really deep work. And maybe say you work with people healing from trauma, and they're not ready to tell their story, but you have helped this person so much, and you want others to know the power of this work. You can put it in lesson form. You would say something like, so the power of my work is taking you can put it in you form, is taking you from triggered over certain words or triggered in your relationship to turning these triggers and traumas into art. And now you've told a story of transformation in generalized terms. You're using you so that your next potential client can also feel like they can do this as well. And we often need this. This is the point of case studies and client testimonials and client stories, is helping next people, your next best client, understand that they can do it too. Is very inspirational. And so that can be one way, and that shouldn't hurt your client's feelings because you're not telling their personal story. But I have a feeling that this participant is asking more about their own story, but that it involves other people. And that's when I want to go back to the quote of, if they wanted to be written better about, they should have behaved better. They should have behaved better. Now, of course, there's more to this story, and this really working deep on your stories and your reasonings for stifling your own creative expression or not telling your story, that can really be worked through in my private mentorship, in the Magnum Opus mentorship. But I'm hoping that this challenge and 30 days of telling your stories and practicing telling your stories and telling your stories in a safer place, a more closed container where there's less people, maybe this person won't get wind that you're telling the story. This will help to face some of the feelings that come up when telling stories where people could feel a certain way. Because I understand that when people feel a certain way, then maybe you feel a certain way. But I want you to remember that you are not responsible for other people's feelings. And if they wanted to be written better about, they should have behaved better. Okay, well, thank you so much for that question. And now we're going to move on to question 2. So this question is about feeling like you're a good enough writer, feeling like you're a skilled writer. not wanting to sound dry, and maybe you relate to this as well, maybe feeling like you're a great educator, but you're not that great of a storyteller yet. And I want you to know that you're in the perfect place to have this challenge and for these questions of, am I good enough? Am I a skilled writer? Do I sound dry? And if I continue to focus on facts, what is that going to do for my business? So I just want to normalize this. When you're a great teacher and you're out there and you have a educational course, or you have retreats where you help people to transform, whatever offers you're putting out as a coach, mentor, healer, or a guide, there is a teacher inside of you. When you're wise and intelligent and have studied so much, of course, that educational piece comes natural to you. Now, I too have this. I am wise. I have a master's degree. I've studied so much. I love studying. Magic is just spending more time on something than anyone would think is reasonable. So you are a magical person. You've studied so much. You've taken so many courses. And so, of course, you're going to focus on the educational piece. Now, in my legacy content method, which is available inside the Conscious Creative Business School, inside of the messaging course, which I've pulled some pieces of content from that messaging course for this free challenge. So you're getting some of those lessons. I actually take you through 6 types of content that will position you as a holistic leader. So often when the educational pieces come so natural to us, then of course we focus on what comes natural to us. But my invitation is to lean into the parts of your story and of this process that are inspirational, that are connective. And story will connect you with your clients, let's just say tenfold. But like I was saying in the beginning of this transmission, stories have the ability to bond you with your audience, because when you tell a story, you release oxytocin, endorphins, serotonin, and dopamine in the system of the person that you're telling the story to. And so if you're online telling stories and you're creating content, you are sharing and connecting one to many. And even though, in these spaces, we're not always so sure who's watching the replay, you just get to trust that you are doing the great work of connecting and bonding with your audience. So we just get to lean into telling those stories. And if we don't feel like we're a skilled writer yet, I hate to burst anyone's bubble out there, but the only way to get better at a creative process is to practice. Okay. Now, you may have heard practice makes perfect, but I also believe that perfect is so boring and I would rather be anything other than perfect. My hair is messy, like my tits are lopsided, like I just am not perfect, and nor do I want to be. Because the best stories come from your mistakes. The best stories for soulpreneurs who want to fill up their offers come from your mistakes, because people want to know that you are guiding them from experience, not from a book. So if you're really great at educating, that's really amazing. That positions you as an authority. But anybody can read a book and then transmit what they read. But no one has your experiences. No one has your stories. And to become a skilled writer, you must practice. And, I am a skilled writer because I knew from a very early age that I was good at writing, because I would write and then I would get that feedback of how my writing touched people. So because I took on the identity early on of a writer, I got better at writing over time because I didn't have any blocks that I was a skilled writer, because I took on the identity of a writer. And a writer is someone who writes. A writer is someone who writes. And the more that you write, the more skilled at writing you become. So if you feel like you're not a skilled writer, and raise your hand who can relate to this challenge, if you feel like you're not a skilled writer, or that you come across kind of maybe like a textbook, then you want to lean in to practice writing as many creative stories as you can. So this is why joining the magnetic storytelling challenge is going to benefit you so much. And I'm so happy that you're here. If you've joined, it's going to benefit you so much because the prompts are designed to help you elicit emotions in your readers and in your followers, and to tell a story in a way that conjures imagery and conjures emotions. And so we just get to practice. And that's the intention of the 30 days of writing prompts, because you cannot learn to swim from a swimming course online. You may learn some techniques. You may understand the waves in the oceans, the patterns of the strokes. You may understand how to claim the identity of a swimmer. But until you get your ass in the water, you're not going to learn how to swim. So when you sit with the prompts each day and you write for the pure intention of writing, you can share, and the most engaged participants will win a few things in this challenge. There's a few prizes I'm giving away: my book for free when it launches, the magnetic messaging mastery course, a pathway to 100K strategy session with me. A bunch of free things are possible for you to win, and my most engaged participants will win. But you win by being an engaged participant and sharing your story, because then you are practicing everyday writing and you're practicing that sharing piece. So I've curated a very small group of people, and in an online learning portal, you'll get to share your message and you'll get to practice your messages and stories being received and witnessed, because that also, you may need practice with that. And you'll get feed forward and you'll get clapping. And just like I did when I was younger, got that feed forward of like, wow, you wrote this? This is really good. I think I wrote my first book when I was 5. I remember a book being entered in a writing competition and I didn't win, but I remember people being like, wow, this is really good. Keep it up. And that's a memory. That's a core memory. One of my first memories unlocked because I wrote a book in one of my classes in elementary school. And I just kept writing over the years, and writing poems and writing songs and sharing them on stage. I have a story that I will tell throughout this, at some point on this magnetic storytelling challenge, about how I overcame stage fright, but how I developed stage fright first. It's a very captivating story, so I want to save it. But for you, and for this question of feeling overwhelmed by not being a good enough writer, this is so normal. And we just get to practice. And that's my intention in the Magnetic Storytelling Challenge. So if you haven't signed up yet, I invite you to sign up so that you can sit with the pen and practice. So you can get your ass in the water, so that you can start telling stories and get that feedback and that validation. You know, we're taught, as spiritual entrepreneurs, not to need validation. You don't need it, but it sure is freaking helpful. And it's helpful to start claiming your identity as a writer. So if you get one thing from this live transmission and this live Q&A, all of you, I want you to start to claim your identity as a writer. And a writer is someone who writes. So join the Magnetic Storytelling Challenge and begin writing, and you'll get prompts. So you'll always have inspiration throughout the 30 days to write. Amazing. So I hope that answered your question. I hope that was valuable, and I hope that was valuable for everyone. Even if you feel like you are a great educator, learning how to tell a story and the components of a great story, which are great characters, a challenge, and a resolution, and learning how to create that resolution, that's going to take practice, but I'm here to support you throughout the 30 days. I get money. Get your ass in the water and I get money. Yeah, if you jump in the water, you get money. That's where the money is. Like, treasure is at the bottom of the lake. I'm pointing to the lake right now, but the treasure is at the bottom of the lake. That's where the money is. But the treasure is you reclaiming your identity as a creative and therefore becoming more prolific. Ask a better question and I'll give you a better answer. So I'm actually answering questions from the people who have signed up, the participants of the Magnetic Storytelling Challenge. Right now, we have one more, but I want to answer a question from Damn. If I start writing, will I get money? So I want you to like, this is so interesting. So this is a very interesting question, and I want you to check where this question is coming from, because this question is so like boop that it feels desperate. And if you're desperate for money, you are closing down the channel of creativity. So the question is, if I start writing, will I get money? If that is the reason why you want to write, then the money actually gets further away. So the answer is yes. Clients come from your message. Your message is the money maker. So the answer is yes. However, if you are just writing just to get money, then there's a few things we need to place on that journey in the meantime. Meaning, we need you to care about your clients. We need you to care about the delivery of your offers. We need you to care about something before the money, because that level of care and depth and quality of service, that's where the money comes from. And then your best stories come from understanding your offers, because as a soulpreneur, you don't just want to tell any story, and you don't have to. I have a lot of clients that come to me and they're like, do I have to share my fucking trauma and trauma dump on the internet to get clients? That feels like not something I want to do. And I just want to assure you all that you do not need to trauma dump on the internet to get clients or money. That is not what I'll be asking you to do. And in fact, it is much more wise to tell the stories that will inspire action in your clients, in your next clients, in your audience. So it will inspire these stories and crafting the right stories. So you're not just going to learn how to tell stories, but you're going to learn how to choose the right stories. And the prompts that I give you are for soulpreneurs only, meaning they're not just for somebody who is writing a creative nonfiction or a fiction book. These prompts are designed for entrepreneurs and for people who have offers that they want filled. And so if you care about your clients, if you have offers that are really well put together and designed with your clients in mind, then yes, then the whole process of storytelling works, because you're also going to tell stories that relate to your offers. And any story can relate to your offer, and we just get to create a bridge, which is what I'm going to talk about in the next question. So if I start writing, will I get money? It's not guaranteed. There's so many little pieces that go together for you to have a higher revenue month, for you to double your income. And these are things that I've done, and these are things that my clients have done. Had 5-figure launches. I've had $100,000 years over the last 4 years. And was it just because I started writing? Yes and no. I put out offers because I claimed my identity as a creative, and I understand that my voice matters. But having a business based on your creative calling is nuanced. And if you really want to share your vision with me and put together a strategy that includes storytelling, then I would love to chat with you about joining my private mentorship, because in the mentorship, I help you with every aspect of your business. And the Conscious Creative Business School is that stepping stone to learn all that you need and all that goes in and start crafting the offer and start putting your story out there and creating a message that magnetizes soul-aligned clients. But it's not a one, like, I write, I get money kind of caveman mentality. It's like, We are activating our inner creatrix, and we know how to sell in ways that feel aligned because we're selling through story. People come to our discovery calls already sold because of the stories that we tell, because of our vulnerability, because telling stories connects you. Okay. Amazing. I guess, yes. So this is not my account. I'm his girlfriend. Dan is sleeping. I'm just using his account. Okay. Okay, great. No problem. Your question is valuable. It sparked something in me. And I don't work with people who are desperate for money. This is not a quick fix to get money. My offerings, including the magnetic storytelling challenge, is for people who are in it for the long game and who want to infuse storytelling into their business strategy so that they can attract people who feel like there's no one else to work with. When you learn how to craft a compelling story, your people start to feel connected with you much sooner. And we all know that we need the know, like, and trust factor for people to buy. People buy more readily, more willingly when they know you, like you, and trust you. And how can they like you if they don't know you? How can they know you if you're not telling them about yourself? And the best way to tell them about yourself is not like, I have a master's degree, and it's not a list of your credentials. The best way to tell them about yourself is to tell them stories of yourself. Now we have another question about what happens if it's hard to remember experiences that are actually helpful for your audience. Okay. If you've been through a lot, it may be hard to remember your childhood. So actually, I just want to go there for a minute. So many people don't remember their childhood, especially if they've had a rough childhood. Now, I'm not sure with this question. There's not enough context for me to understand if that's what you're speaking to, but there are many things that we repress. And storytelling is actually very healing. It can start to unravel and unwind some of the stories that we've repressed, some of the stories that we actually need to retell from an adult lens. And as children, we created stories in our head from a child's perspective, which we all know children have an amazing perspective. They're curious, they are creative, they're natural storytellers, they're natural learners. And somewhere along the line, that can get stifled in us. So telling stories can start to heal our own ancestral lineage as well. So that's a little side effect of storytelling. Yes, you'll get clients. Yes, you'll get that bag and start creating higher revenue months, double your revenue, all the cool businessy things that you want to do. But ultimately, you'll be healing a part of you that is stifled by society. And so my intention is to activate the storyteller within you so that you can also heal from the stories you might have told yourself as a child. Okay. And so that's one piece. And then the question goes on to be like, how do I get the lesson from these stories? And how do I sell from stories? So I'm really excited to answer this question because the way that I teach storytelling, there's always a bridge so that you can tell a story that seems unrelatable or seems unrelated to your offer, but you make it related to your offer. There is always a bridge in every story, at least in every story that I tell. And as a storyteller and as someone who's been telling stories since a child, it does come naturally to me. But I'm going to ask that you practice that in the 30 days, that you practice going, and that's why I created, and then talk about your offer. And by practicing saying that, you're also opening your channel to remember the stories that are going to lead to your offer, because you don't have to tell stories that are going to give you a vulnerability hangover. It is not just about finding your deepest trauma and airing your dirty laundry on the internet. That is not what we're talking about here when we're talking about stories. We're talking about stories that there is a resolution. So you don't even have to tell a story that you're currently experiencing. And we're all experiencing our own story. We live at the level of story. We live at the level of story. So stories are what our minds are configuring all the time. And we can either have a positive story or a negative story. And you get to craft your stories in the light that you desire. And so a good story for soul-led leaders are stories that have a resolution. So if you're experiencing a story now that hasn't been resolved, you just save that. You just save it and just know that, wow, this is going to be a good story to tell when it is resolved. And you are still an amazing leader, an amazing teacher, an amazing healer, even if you go through your own challenges. You don't have to be perfect to help others to achieve something or transform in the areas of life that you have transformed or that they want to transform using your spiritual gifts. So this is such a great question because that bridge is so nuanced. And in my mentorship, I'm actually going line by line through your content. So we're not going to do that here in the Magnetic Storytelling Challenge, but you are going to get the chance to practice. But in my mentorship, I'm going line by line. I'm looking at that bridge and seeing where you can optimize your storytelling qualities and the way that you tell stories so that the bridge is clear. So I not only teach you, but I have to charge straight up. Like I have to, at some point, that's a lot of effort on my end. And it's the level of service that you get in the mentorship. But for now, that bridge and practicing connecting the story, the lesson, and telling stories that there is a lesson. So you don't have to go into the recesses of your first childhood memories if it's not relevant. But you could tell a story, and this is one of the prompts that I'll be giving you in the 30 days of prompts. Tell a story of something that recently happened that ignited your faith in the universe. Oh, and if you are helping people understand universal principles and work with spirit to X, Y, and Z, then really amazing. Your story is going to help them to feel connected to you, help them feel like you know that this process works, and help them feel just like they can do it too, because stories are about humans. There's no other species that tells stories. Stories are about humans. So when you want to help a human through a human transformation, a transformational process, which is so very a part of the human condition to feel stuck, to feel challenged. This is why all stories are the same. All stories have a protagonist, an antagonist, a challenge, and a resolution. We'll be talking about the hero's journey and this part in some of the exclusive high-end trainings of this challenge. But basically for now, all you get to know is that all stories have a similar arc. And so there'll be a part in the story and you'll feel it intuitively where the bridge comes in and connects to why you told the story, and it can feel a little bit clunky when you're first doing it, but that's why this challenge is so necessary, because it feels clunky because it's new. It feels clunky because we're not practiced. It feels clunky because anything new that we're not used to can feel clunky. So we want these bridges to feel smooth, not only in you writing them, but for the human receiving them. And so in the group, you're going to also be able to tell your stories to others and ask them if they resonate. And I'll be able to do a few creative reviews on some of the stories. There'll be a lot of stories being told, so I can't promise to get to everybody's story on every single day. However, this is the level of service that you get in the Magnum Opus mentorship, because Magnum Opus is really about you bringing your best work forward. And your best work forward isn't written by ChatGPT. It's told through the lens of your stories. It's told through the lens of your arc and your journey. The best businesses, the best transformational businesses come from the transformations that you've made and the mistakes that you've made. So thank you so much for sharing this challenge and asking this question. I hope this Q&A was helpful for everybody that was here. I'm going to wrap it up. We have been here for a little while, but if you feel resonant with becoming a magnetic storyteller so that you can get that bag, double your revenue, but mostly so that you can fill up your offers so that you can live your sacred calling full time, I am so thrilled to invite you for free for 30 days. If you're seeing this, we start tomorrow, but if you're seeing this in the future, join at any time. You get all 30 prompts right away. So you'll be able to pick and choose. You'll be able to go through the prompts. So you'll be able to go in order. It doesn't matter to me if you go out of order. The point is that you're writing every day so that you can become a skilled writer, so that you can become a storyteller, so that you can connect with your audience, and so that they feel connected to you and your service to the world. Okay, me and my cat are bidding you adieu. Oh, she's so cute. And stay tuned for some more of my stories coming to you throughout the month. Talk to you so soon. Bye.